Hello friend, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about how to buy your first horse. Very exciting time, super exciting. Also known as how to say goodbye to all your money and time, but you know, that's just me. But no, seriously, buying your first horse is super exciting, but I do have a little asterisk on this video that if you can take lessons and lease a horse, I recommend doing that for as long as you possibly can until it is no longer feasible. Either you want to do things that no one's going to let their horse do, or you just can't find a lease horse, or you want full control over what happens to that horse because you own it. Those are going to be the scenarios where I would say yes, buy a horse, but I highly recommend leasing for as long as you can. It is more cost effective, and these horses just take so much time, money, blood, sweat, tears. They take all of it, that leasing and taking lessons on not your own horse is probably the best way to go a lot of the time, but not all the time. So brings us to here, how to buy your first horse. So number one is going to be seek professional guidance. Please, please, please pay someone who does not have a conflict of interest, who is not trying to sell you this horse, to come with you. And hopefully that is the person that you are working with currently, like your trainer, and they've done this before, and you can bring them along and you can ask them all sorts of questions, and you can send them the videos of the horse, and you can really distill down what type of horse you need so that you aren't blinded by the really fancy big moving horses when that's not something that you really need. So especially for your first horse. So please seek professional guidance from someone who has your best interests at heart. So that's number one. They will charge you for this service, and it is money well spent. So please have a professional help you, especially for your first one. If you don't have a professional, or you can't get the schedules to align, then make sure you bring someone with you who maybe has some horse knowledge that can help out, and at a minimum can take videos of you riding the horse that you can send to your trainer. So make sure that there's some way that the trainer can get the eyes on the horse before you purchase it. Don't just go to a consignor or an auction and just pick out the one that they say is going to be best. Make sure you have someone who can verify that does not have a conflict of interest on selling you this horse, that can say, yes, that is the best one for you. Cool. Okay, with that out of the way, now we're going to start, even further back. Define your goals, and you can use your trainer to help do this as well, so keep you grounded. Make sure that you know what you want to do with this horse. And if it's your first horse, generally speaking, you're not going to need the 3-year-old off the track thoroughbred. You're going to need the 15-year-old, been there, done that horse that will take care of you as you navigate horse ownership. So really be clear about what you want this horse to do. Do you want this horse to go to some shows, or do you just want to bebop around the property and go on trail rides? Like, those are both fantastic goals. Just make sure you are really defining, what do you want to do with this horse. If you like this video and subscribe to this channel, your first horse shopping experience will be magical, something out of the fairy tales. You will find that perfect unicorn on the first try, and it'll be glorious. Okay, maybe that's not true, but it can't hurt. Number 2 or 3, or I've lost count already, but make sure that you are assessing your own riding level. Like, do not overshoot what you think you can handle. Make sure that you are being very real with what type of horse you can handle. If you have been riding lesson horses for a good period of time, you will want something lesson horse-like. Again, you don't want the 3-year-old off the track thoroughbred that needs a strong leader that knows what they're doing, because that 3-year-old thoroughbred is going to look to you for confidence. And if that horse now has gotten really big and you yourself don't have the confidence to handle that horse, then that's not going to be a good match. So make sure you're really assessing your riding level, where you're at, so that you can get an accurate idea of what type of horse you're going to need. There's a saying in the horse world that says green rider plus green horse equals black and blue, bruises all over, and it's so true. So just make sure that you are getting the horse that someone else has put the time and years into making it that steady Eddie horse that you know you're going to need. Or if this is your first horse, but you've been riding forever and that you are a very capable horsewoman, then yes, absolutely go out and look at those 4-year-old off the track thoroughbreds if that's something that you know that you can handle. All right, the big one is set a realistic budget. Horses cost a lot, and you have to know what you're getting into. So I tell people to go to websites like dreamhorse.com and equinenow.com and Facebook, because there is no Kelley Blue Book for horses, but you can kind of get a good idea about what horses are going for. There's also bigeck.com, and so you can kind of see, okay, this is what I would like. What are those horses generally going for? And then you can get an idea of what kind of budget you need to have. Now, there's this thing where there are 3 things. There's cheap, broke, and sound, and you get to pick 2. So if it's cheap and broke, it's not sound. If it's broke and sound, it's not cheap. And if it's cheap and sound, it's not broke. So those are kind of your options there. So if you're going for cheaper, it's either going to need some maintenance or have some sort of history of having an unsoundness, which isn't always a deal breaker. It might just need a lower level job than what it's been doing, or it's not going to have that much experience, which for the average first-time horse buyer who's more on the beginner side, not going to work. Again, if you are a first-time horse buyer, but you've been in the horse world for 20 years and you finally get to buy your own horse, then absolutely, maybe you can put the work in, the sweat equity in on that 4-year-old thoroughbred. But just know for a lot of people who are buying their first horses, especially for their kids, you're going to want to go with something that might need a little more maintenance rather than going for something that needs more training. Take your time. It is not a race. So you don't have to buy the first horse you go look at. You don't have to buy the third horse you go look at. Now, costs do keep incurring when you go out and take your trainer with you to go look at these horses, but don't let that rush you. If you find that you've been horse shopping for a year and you have not found anything, then I think that something that you're looking for is unrealistic. Generally budget. So if you want sound and showing and beautiful and all these things for like $5,000, you probably aren't going to find it. So definitely take your time, but if it's going on for close to 6 months to a year and you're just not finding anything, then you've got to give on one of your criteria. But don't make it a race. Don't buy the first horse you see unless it truly is the best one. If you get out there and this is the unicorn you've been looking for, absolutely. But don't feel that you have to buy it just because it's the first one you tried. Conduct thorough evaluations. So when you see these sale ads, they're going to be trying to sell the horse. They're going to say nice things about the horse. Now, no horse is perfect. I don't care who they are. They always have a quirk, something. And maybe that's something that you can live with, and maybe it's not. But it's your job when asking questions to determine if this horse is going to be the right horse for you. I like to ask questions like, how is it for the vet and farrier? What is it like over jumps? Does it like to go trail riding? Does it trail ride alone and in a group? Does it get on the horse trailer? Does it get turned out with other horses? And where is it in the pecking order? Is it easy to catch? The list goes on and on and on. But one of my favorite things is, what is the worst thing this horse does? Because they have to come up with something. And when you go out to see the horse, you can kind of see a little bit more. But I do like asking that question because it kind of gets the seller to open up a little bit. But there's lots of questions you can ask based on what your specific need is for the horse. And I'll put a link in the description to my website, and it'll have a list of questions that I generally like to ask when I am horse shopping. Okay, so you have talked to the seller, you've determined this is good, let's go out and try the horse. Again, bring your trainer. This doesn't always work out as far as scheduling is concerned. If that's the case, bring someone that you trust or another horse person that can kind of give you some guidance. At a minimum, bring someone so that they can video. A lot of times sellers will video for you, but bring someone that will be able to video you, and then you can send that to your trainer so that she can have a little bit of insight. But basically, when you go there, you're going to want to watch the horse do everything. So I really like to watch the horse be brought in from the field if you can. Sometimes I already have them in and clean, that's fine. But watch the horse be tacked up. Watch the owner ride the horse, or someone at the barn ride the horse. You are not supposed to be the first one on that animal. That's a big red flag. So make sure someone else gets on the horse first so you can watch it go in person. If you have your trainer with you, they can get on. They don't need to ride for very long. They don't want to tire out the horse, but they can tell you, oh, this horse is going to be something that will work, or no, this horse will not work. And if at any point during this whole thing, even when you're watching the horse be tacked up, that there's something that you're like, nope, not for me, tell the seller. You don't want to waste anybody's time. People think that, no, I got to keep going with this because I'm here and I just got to ride the horse. Even though you know you're not going to buy the horse, believe me, it'll saves everyone so much time if you just be like, thank you so much for your time, but this is not going to be the right horse for me, and I'll see you later. So even though it feels like a lot of friction in the moment, it's actually the best thing you can do. So make sure at any point, if you're like, nope, this is not the horse, do not ride it, don't get on it, just be nice and tell them that thank you for your time and walk away. But if things are going well, then you can get on the horse and ride it as well. Now, big red flags are if you don't feel comfortable doing anything on that horse. If you get on that horse and you can't leave a walk because you're terrified, might be a red flag. Might not be. Maybe you're just really nervous, but if you don't feel comfortable, the moment you pick up a trot and that horse trots off with you and you can't stop it, that's a big red flag. This might not be the horse for you. So make sure you're riding a horse that you can do most of the things that you would do on other horses on this horse. So if you're used to walk, trot, cantering and jumping, 2'6" at home, make sure you can walk, trot, canter this horse and maybe jump it over a small vertical. You don't have to do everything that you're doing at home, but be able to do enough to see if this would be the right horse for you. And if you don't feel comfortable doing any of those things, then it's probably not the right horse for you. Okay, if we have passed everything this far, next thing you would do is schedule a pre-purchase exam, also known as a PPE. This is where you will get a vet out to look at the horse. They'll do a thorough examination and also check the horse for any unsoundness. They'll do what's called a flexion test, where they hold certain joints of the horse in a flexed state for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then have the horse trot off, and then they can assess whether that joint might have an issue if the horse limps away for a little bit, and then you can investigate and do more x-rays or not. It's really up to you on how much you want to spend on a pre-purchase exam. So their baseline is you're going to spend around $300 to $500 depending on the vet on just to get them out there and do a thorough examination, watch the horse move, check its heart and lungs, all the good stuff. And then if you want x-rays of any particular joint, that's going to be extra. That's probably going to run you $40 to $60 per view of an x-ray, and you need several views to get a complete picture of any one joint. So I do recommend x-raying certain things on certain horses depending on what they're going to be used for, but make sure you're picking and choosing wisely, because you can go through a pre-purchase exam and spend $1,000 and then still not have a horse at the end of it because you've decided to walk away. So with the pre-purchase exam, it's not necessarily a pass or fail, it's just what can you live with? And so I find most horses, when they're buying their first horse, they can live with a lot. This horse isn't going to the Olympics. You are not going to the Olympics. You are just buying your first horse. And so as long as that horse has a relative longevity to it for you to learn with over the next 5 or so years, depending on, what you want to do, I can live with a lot. So if it can be maintained and the horse can be relatively sound, that's great. Now, no one has a crystal ball. I wish we had crystal balls, but the vet might say, okay, yeah, this horse will be able to hold up for blah, 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 whatever you want to do. And if it doesn't in the next year, well, don't hold their feet to the fire, because it's horses, anything can happen. So make sure you take everything with a grain of salt, that it's horses, anything can happen. But we can say with some confidence that certain issues are going to be non-issues for what you want to do. At this point, you can start to negotiate. Now, if the horse has not been on the market for very long and the pre-purchase exam didn't really find anything that we didn't know about before, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of negotiation room, but be courteous and assertive, and if it's not going your way, then be prepared to walk away. But I find that that for the most part, unless the seller is upfront saying they are negotiable, they really aren't negotiable. So be prepared to ask. The worst they could say is no, and then move on from there. If you can get a horse on trial as well before you pay the final amount, that's awesome. Not many people do that, but some do, so it's worth asking. Will you let this horse go out on a week or 2 week, 3 week, a month trial just to see that it really is going to be a good fit? And at that point, you would do the PPE during that trial, and then after that, be able to purchase the horse or send the horse back. I hope this helps. I'll put a link in the description to my website, and it'll have a list of questions that I generally like to ask when I'm horse shopping. And click here for more horse care tips.